Hello, everybody. I'm Dorothy. I'm honored to be here. I'm going to talk to you about Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. That goes on 2021, 2022. I'm going to give you the dates. I'm going to give you the astro info about it, the astrology info about it, but I'm also going to give you just straightforward how this will show up in the world and how you and I can use it personally. All right. I am a professional astrologer. This is my profession, and you can find me on the web at nhastrologer.com. So today I'm going to start my screen share. I have my notes. You'll see me looking down because I'm going to read my notes. I want to make sure I tell you everything that I've written out. I'm not an actor. I don't remember things. I don't remember stuff for, yeah, I'm just going to read. So Jupiter's movement in 2021 and 2022. What are the possibilities and the consequences? Is this a return of hope and faith, compassion for others? We'll find out. So here up on the screen right now are the dates that Jupiter moves in and out of Pisces over the next year and a half. And this is normal movement. This happens regularly. Today, I'm only going to talk about it in the sign of Pisces, but I just wanted you to see when it was. The next slide will show you the exact dates that is only in Pisces. So ingress means when it enters the sign of Pisces. Jupiter, moving through the tropical zodiac, enters the sign of Pisces on May 13th. Now, Jupiter will station and retrograde on June 20th. The retrograde motion of the planets in the sky, for those who don't know, is just an apparent vision. It's what we see from here on the earth. Depends on where they are in their sight, in their movement, and our movement. They look like they're going backwards. Just like if you were driving down the highway and there's a car, somebody's in the middle watching, right? And there's a car in the right lane and going too slow for you. You pull over to the left lane, you go faster than them. If you were watching it from an outside source, that car would look like it would be going backwards because you're going faster. So the retrogrades, it's an optical illusion, but during the retrograde periods, it's a time of inner reflection. And this happens every year for a lot of the planets, not all of them, but this one for sure. So his station retrograde is June 20th, stops at 2 degrees of Pisces. For the astrologers out there, find that place in your chart. There'll be a major focus. It retrogrades back into the sign of Aquarius on July 28th, and then moves forward and finally stops and retrogrades and finally stops and goes direct on October 17th, maybe the 18th, depending on your location. That's at 22 degrees of Aquarius. Then it finally re-enters Pisces on December 28th. Moves into Aries on May 10th, 2022, re-enters Pisces October 28th to December 20th, right? And that, of course, is just the last 2 degrees of Pisces. So that's what that is. I'm going to give you a quick move forward. Here we are. I'm going to move this forward. Now we have this here, and this is when it is just in Pisces, not in Aquarius or Aries. Those are the signs on either side of Pisces. May 13th to July 28th, December 28th to May 10, October 28th to December 20. So that's when we are really feeling the flow and the compassion and the understanding and all the things I'm going to talk about now in our hour together. All right, we'll give you more. So here's just a few of the ways Jupiter, I'm piecing this out. I'm going to give you this by pieces. Take notes, especially write down the words that really resonate for you, because we're all individuals and we're all going to feel this just a little bit different. Now, Jupiter is the planet of abundance. In astrology, it's known as the Great Benefic. He's got a gravitational pull that saves us from asteroids and meteors. And he's the one that actually, if you know astronomy, Jupiter is the planet that actually cleared the inner solar system. So the rest of us, we could start our, create our path around the sun. So he's very benefic and very beneficial. But sometimes too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing, and it can cause problems. So we'll go through both of these issues. all throughout this talk. So skillful and unskillful, good or bad. I don't like the good or bad, so we use skillful and unskillful. We learn equally from both of them. Just one usually feels better than the other. So skillful ways, skillful things that will happen with Jupiter when Jupiter's happening in our chart: abundance and prosperity and wealth, and we feel generous. We really feel inspired to seek and do. Is humor too. I love it. I love the humor. It's fantastic. Faith, having faith in something, faith in yourself, faith in what you believe in. Optimism, accumulation of things. What things? That will depend on you. So those are some of the skillful ways that we use Jupiter. Some of the unskillful ways, and I'll cover more as we go through different subjects, because I'm going to break this down for us as we go further and further into this. Some of the unskillful ways of using this is, of course, overexpansion. Think about it. Did you eat too much in 2020? Not everybody, I know. A little bit of expansion. Overate, overexpanded. Probably didn't overexercise. I know I didn't. Personal. We could feel deprived. Now, when we say, well, how can we feel deprived if there's expansion? Because Jupiter is going, whatever it is connecting to, especially in our own charts or in the world, where it is in the world, if there's poverty, that's the next one I'm talking about, then there it can be increased even more. The division between the very wealthy and the very poor, the gap has gotten huge recently. And I know Jupiter's not even in Pisces yet, but it will be quite visible as we go through this next year. Selfishness can be theirs because I want everything for me. Indifference is part of it. Satire a little bit, but I think satire is funny, but it's usually at somebody's expense. Excuse me. Which that stinks. Being overconfident and not having any humility, feeling like being an extremist. We're going to see that around us. Gluttony as well. So these are just some of the ways that we're going to see what's going on in the world around us. I don't want to flip my page yet. All right, I've gotten my notes right here. It's a lot of my notes. I don't want you guys reading too much. I want you listening. Now, we're going to define Pisces. And the reason we're going to do that is because Jupiter's in Pisces. Neptune is in Pisces too. That comes later. So Pisces represents all of these things and more. So it represents water. It's a water sign. It's a mutable water sign. In astrology, that means it's just very flexible. In astrology, it is the final zodiac sign. So that means it's the culmination of everything, and all of the zodiac signs come together in this mutable water sign. Very flexible, understanding. So Pisces being water, it's the oceans. It's clairvoyance. I know we're going all over the map with this. I'm not doing it in order. Spirituality, charity, dissolving borders and not knowing where those borders are. We need that. But some people will say if we dissolve borders, that's too much, right? There's illusions in distilleries. Yes, I put distilleries in here. Who doesn't like a good whiskey or a brandy? You have to distill things down and let them age. That's what that is. Escapism, falsehood, fog. Can't see through fog. It's hard to see. Gas, you can't see that at all. Imprisonment, our own imprisonment. It could be prisons themselves. They're an institution. Or it can be our own imprisonment in our own minds. Institutions is another thing that is ruled by Pisces. Of course, those are hospitals. And like I said, prisons. The nunneries and monasteries are institutions as well. And then charitable organizations, because those help people. Those are that's the energy of this of Pisces. So it is about helping everybody, and there are no individuals. We're just helping large organizations. Confinement and mysticism and mystery, seclusion, being by yourself. Sometimes we love that. that makes you feel more like an introvert, which is okay. We've all had a lot of that. I think many of us and most of us are ready for that, to like ready to expand out into the world again. So hopes and dreams, the collective, and more. And we'll get into what more means. All right. So these don't feel harsh. I mean, the imprisonment and institutions and confinement certainly does. And then escapism. Wow, I would love to escape into some things and just put my head into the sand and ignore what's going on. But last year was a tough one. We had a lot of really heavy transits and heavy energy. It's still, there's a lot of it that still remains, right? The astrology of it is it's Saturn and Aquarius, but last year it was Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto in Capricorn. And so structures and governments were like, boom, breaking down, because we need things to be rebuilt in a different way. But now that Jupiter is moving into Pisces, we're going to have it's its natural home. It rules Sagittarius and traditional ruler of Pisces. That's the astrology. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So it's still considered in its domicile, in its home placement. So it's comfortable here. So some of those harsher things, those things that created a lot of rough edges in 2020, we still are working through a lot of those things, but this is going to help us to soften the edges. Take a deep breath. It's like finally getting into the ocean and having a float, or just getting in the bathtub or soaking your feet. All of those things are Jupiter and Pisces and Pisces. So with Jupiter in this sign, that means the Piscean qualities that I just listed. If I can go back one, I'll show you one more time. A lot of these Piscean qualities will be expanded even more. So we'll need to watch and be careful of that. It can be good and maybe not so much. And even more astrology throughout Jupiter's stay in the sign of Pisces, there really are no major aspects from any other planet. And what that means is like Jupiter, with the exception of Uranus in February 2022. And what that means is Jupiter really will have a lot of opportunity to expand, even during its retrograde and Jupiter period. There's still some expansion there. So we're going to have a lot of the things. We're going to talk about some of the subjects deeply in just a sec. But when Uranus does connect, this is a 60-degree angle. So just be 60 degrees from each other in that big astrological wheel. They are Uranus and Taurus. It will help to ground us just a little bit. It will help us to remember what's important if we became untethered. Now, again, what's it going to look like in the world? We'll see those stories. What's it look like for you and me will be our personal stories. All right. Now, speaking of personal and not personal, we're going to move on to non-personal issues that might rise while Jupiter is in the sign of Pisces. Of course, these are my opinions. Yeah, that's my opinion. But hey, I wanted to go back just one real quick. I wanted to read my notes. See, I forgot to read my notes and I said I wanted to. So how long is this going to last? How long? I want to just pose a few questions for you really quick before I get back to slide number 6. We are going to feel like we can catch a break when Jupiter is in our Pisces area, right? It's going to be somewhere impacting you and me. We're going to be able to escape the harshness of the world for a little while. That is if you choose. Is it a good idea? Why not? We all need a break, but we don't want to go there too long. So that's why that Uranus sextile is really nice. But we do need to make sure we don't disengage so much that we forget about the world around us and those that we can help if we're part of the charitable organization that we feel we want to help. Okay. So now non-personal issues that might rise up while Jupiter is in the sign of Pisces. Whew. an explosion of propaganda, big explosion of propaganda. Social media confusion, no boundaries. They're already doing a lot of censoring, but do they have the right? Freedom of speech. That is going to be, I'm not making an opinion of it. This is just stating some facts. That will be, I think, something pretty big. Are they going to be able to, this invisible force, Jupiter and Pisces, this humongous invisible force, are they going to be able to censor us? Then there's this illusion around, of course, social media influencers. I don't know if you know about them or not, but they're just people who are just very popular, millions of followers. Influencer means, they'll just sell. It's the modern way of advertisement, especially for people who don't watch TV. That will definitely grow. There's no doubt about it. Now, this is a touchy subject, but I think it's true. It just feels like it to me. Not everybody has to agree, but it does feel like it. So now in astrology, viruses are ruled by the planet Pluto, but Neptune also is in charge of little things we can't see. We can't see, hear, smell. It's just, they're invisible. And so, we're already dealing with virus variations. And what's the world doing with it? What's going on? At this recording, things have been pretty bad in really bad in some countries. Not so bad here in America, but it is what it is. So I feel that there's something here that is going to expand more. Jupiter in Pisces means more of Pisces. And that Pisces energy, Neptune rules Pisces, that Pisces energy means to me that viruses will expand even more. Jupiter will only be in there for a year, but Neptune's going to stay in that sign for a lot more years. But we won't get into that today. So I also feel that there's going to be more of these conspiracy theories. More of them are going to come out of this time period. You wouldn't believe the things I've heard over the last few weeks. Lots of different things. I don't want to go into them, but I've heard them and I'm like, they're growing. So more conspiracy theories, the potential for more variations of viruses, social media, lots of more propaganda. You would say, yeah, no kidding, we're already doing that. And I agree. And when I look at this, I've been doing this for a long time, it reminds me that these things will grow even more. Now, one thing that could happen at some moments in time, but not for everybody, because we're going to have to get clear of all of this Pisces energy, which again won't happen until the end of 2022 in regards to Jupiter and Pisces. We're not going to be able to see the fog won't clear for quite a while. So that's why this seems like it's just going to grow for a little longer. And we're not going to be able to see the truth for some time. Now, there's a lot of issues with water rights, clean water, fresh water. Now, when I started this research for, subjects around water, fresh water, the availability of water and things like that, I actually started the research on April 13th and on this piece of it. And on April 13th, Japan announced, this is Fukushima, I hope I said that right. Japan announced that they're still going to be releasing 1 million metric tons of treated radioactive water into the ocean in the next 2 years. Let's see, I got a little bit more. A plan that faces opposition at home and raises grave concern in neighboring countries. Why wouldn't it? The decision to release the wastewater comes from more than a decade after the disaster, of course, at Fukushima in 2011. And they've been regularly delaying this, but they still feel that they can do it. They want to release it into the Pacific in 2 years in a slow process, but they feel the water's treated, but they feel it's just unavoidable because they cannot decommission the nuclear plant until they dispose of this water. And they are doing everything they can, they say, to make this as safe as possible. I think that's just absolutely devastating. We'll see how that works out. It's a global issue. There's no doubt about it. And even adding water into the ocean, the ratio of solution to dilution will minimize it, but I'm not making excuses for it by any means. I think it's really wrong. Excuse me. I think I should have refilled that before I started this. All right. Another water issue that I discovered, there's many. All you have to do is just Google it. This is Brazil's water and sanitation crisis. This is in Brazil. So currently there are 3 million people without access to safe, clean water, and 24 million without access to improved sanitation. This is a travesty. Excuse me. So despite having one of the largest economies in the world, there is still this deep inequality in access to water and sanitation, excuse me, among Brazil's geographical regions, the rural and urban communities and households. So that many people, for those who don't have access to safe, clean water, it really does disrupt services and functions in the whole system. I've noticed, I read more about this too, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm trying to remember what I read, but in a lot of villages, especially the rural villages, this is very disenfranchising to women because it takes women more than 80% of their day to get to the local water source to bring back what the household needs every day. And they go, and I was reading this article, and it is in Brazil, and they take 3 to 4 trips a day. If they had a donkey or a horse, they would do it twice a day, but not everybody even has that available to them. So this is just totally monopolizing women's lives, girls and women's lives. Plus, I mean, that's horrendous. Every time I turn on my faucet, I've camped a lot, and I know how much it takes to get all your water supply to you, especially when there's no water supply nearby. I've camped like that. A gallon of water does not go long, especially when you're washing dishes or trying to bathe, things like that. So this is a crisis. This is a deep crisis in the world for them. It's big. Let me see if I have anything else. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough of that one. So here's another one. Freshwater commodities. This is already beginning in some areas of the world. Here in December, California water futures began trading amid fear of scarcity. I don't understand futures trading. They're usually betting against something that's negative from what I understand. Maybe I'm wrong. But that is pretty difficult. So those are just some of the water issues that we have going on. That's just one of the things Jupiter in Pisces is going to stir up for you and me. All right. So now let's move on to this. Speaking of water, I had to go get more. Thank you. All right. Now, there's quite a few more things that we can cover. And I know water was a real big one. No doubt about it. So these are other things that can be stirred up by Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. So foreign ambassadors, Jupiter is in charge of foreign nations, foreign to wherever you live. Lawyers. Yeah, I know, lawyers. That could be the Supreme Court. I'll have to put that in there. They're all lawyers first. It's church leaders, the cardinals, the Pope, church leaders. Something will get stirred up with that. And church leaders, because, Jupiter is what we believe in, our faith. And the church is because, that's faith too. And that's that Pisces area. So that's a real big one. I think that's going to be really important. Jupiter as well is in charge of royalty, the British royalty. That's the one we know the most here in America. There's plenty of royalty all over the world and other countries. But that whole system, there's going to be something should come to a head over the next year that we're going to be able to see. And I think more will be revealed when Jupiter gets into Aries. And you can go back and see what those dates were. What were those dates? When Jupiter peaks into Aries, we'll have a visual of some of the things that we're talking about that is not too clear. May 10th, 2022 until October 28th, 2022. That's when it will be in Aries. So we're going to have some clarity. Then it moves back into Pisces for a little while. So government officials are also ruled by this Jupiter in Pisces. Now we will also have, I won't, I don't want to, maybe you don't either. There will be a lot of health issues caused by overindulgence and excess. So what are those? That could be obesity. That's what that's going to be. Diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and certain types of cancer are all the results of overindulgence. So those are something. Now, if it's personal for you, you'll know it right away. You'll start to feel these things, but it could be just the overall health of the nation or the world gets to be, our overall health is kind of stinky with all this virus stuff going on. But anyways, this is more about overindulgence. Higher learning and colleges, they're definitely under, I wouldn't say scrutiny, but they're definitely under the scope right now as to how they're going to transition back to all the things in person, when a lot of people know that they don't have to do so much in person, and it can, higher education can cost less. There's going to be some reconciling with that throughout the year. So higher learning, colleges, philanthropy, philosophy, all of those things will come to a head. Oh yeah, in my notes, I do have the Supreme Court. Sports and athletics will be interesting. And since there's so much water, it could very well be that the swimming sports become more popular this coming year. Writers and publishing, Jupiter is well known for all of that. So writing, publishing, pretty decent stuff. All right, so those are some of the other things that could just show up. Now, we have an opportunity, and again, on a more lighter note, right? We have an opportunity to connect more to the world. We want to do that? I think we do. Our brothers and sisters, we need each other. This Jupiter in Pisces wants us to dissolve the borders. Again, we don't have to open up the border to immigrants like 100%. I think that would be a disaster. But I'm talking about our emotional connection, how we can, through groups, through society, can really connect with others, not the physical borders. But then again, some people will need that too. Some people will need to let those physical borders down. So let's move on to something else. So spiritual teachings. Positive, negative, it doesn't matter. The expansion of spiritual teachings is definitely something that we will be focusing on, especially those of us who are spiritual and in a spiritual way, and use it in everyday life and practices. So this is something that would work out for all of us, right? in some special way just for you. Environmental ways to use water. These are things that we could look at. How to create electricity, how to help farmers in third world countries so they're able to help themselves. Now, I know this is like, those are very different things. The next line, the meaning of life. That's Jupiter in Pisces. What's the meaning of life? Maybe you're going to go and you're going to discover that for yourself. What's our truth? What do we value? Those ethical values. Growing our knowledge. We need to learn. We want to learn. That's all we want to do. Jupiter in Pisces. I got more. I didn't put it all up. Jupiter in Pisces. Cleansing and clearing with water. That's a wonderful way to use Jupiter in Pisces. Find a way that is healing and clearing for you. When it's in Aquarius, which it is until May 13th, and then those other dates I gave you, right? When it's in the sign of Aquarius, I just want to give you a little, right? July 28th until December 28th, it will be back in the sign of Aquarius. And for that, when it's in that sign, this is the only time I'll talk about it in Aquarius, sound healing vibrations. All right. Those are great, wonderful, light ways to use it. Now, you might start to finally just like really enjoy having a bath. Maybe there'll be a shortage of bathtubs. I don't know. We'll know by the time Jupiter moves into the sign of Aries, won't we? Indeed, we will. Now, we have more. Now this gets amplified even more at this point because now Jupiter in Pisces will make a conjunction to Neptune. So I did say there were no major from outer planets in the beginning of this, but this is a conjunction. They're in the same place. It is an aspect. So this is going to amplify everything that we've talked about with Jupiter and Pisces so far. This conjunction, meaning they're in the same place in the sky, is on April 12th, 2022. We'll feel it for a week or two on either side, but the exact connection is 23 degrees and 58 minutes of Pisces. So again, for the astrologers out there who can locate this in their own chart, just know that location, especially if it connects to other things, will be very highlighted. So this is the only conjunction that these two planets make. And they are close, like I said, for a long time. Really, it starts in April, then it slowly separates. And then between December and October 2022, they'll get close again, but not exact. So how do we think this is going to play out? We're going to find out. All right, this is how it can play out. So looking through more positive way of looking at this, when Jupiter and Neptune come together, we can be looking through the eyes of innocence because we've been in this energy for quite some time now, quite a few weeks, and we are feeling very hopeful, and we're expanding and exploring new ideas, new wishes, new hopes, new dreams. Our compassions for others should grow. Our need and our want for connection will be really, striving for that. Again, there's going to be a lot more focus in social conditions, especially around the water. As I've already talked about, there's going to be a lot going on where there will be a focus. It could very well be in April. There's a lack of water and there's a fire season somewhere and there's an absolute lack of water. And so the focus on a lack of water is just as important as floods happening somewhere. I know that's not very positive. That feels scary, but it happens. It does happen. So let's keep going. So what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your wishes? Are you interested in spirituality and mysticism? Are you looking to further your education in philosophy or anything spiritual, metaphysical, or something that your soul is really connected to? That's what we're going to be, that's what this amplification of Jupiter and Pisces would be like. The other side of this conjunction, we've already seen some of it, but we need to watch out for is living too much in the dream world, not having our feet planted on the ground, exploiting our resources. That's a tough one. That can happen. The growth of falsehood and conspiracies. Again, this to me is when things will most likely peak in some of the things we've already talked about. Again, more with the overindulgences and health issues. Could be we just get a big news report about the overall health of the world. It's typically not a good time to take a big risk, especially if you haven't spent any time investigating it or getting the facts before Jupiter entered the sign of Pisces. And again, this is because we walk around with rose-colored glasses on. We're in a fog. We feel everything is wonderful and perfect, and that's okay. And whatever. That's all Pisces. That's all Jupiter and Pisces. So we need to be careful of that. Pay attention to what you're doing. But I want us to also do these things. Now, this is back to personal. Track your dreams. Get that journal next to your bed. Track your dreams. You trust your intuition. For those of you who are sensitives out there, this is going to amplify your sensitivities even more. And you're like, whoa, no, I don't need that. Well, then that is your job to learn how to, clear your own energy, how to protect yourself, and how to learn how to decipher, is this mine or somebody else's? And again, if you need to, Pisces is seclusion and keeping yourself separate from others. So if you ever feel overwhelmed, and we may feel more overwhelmed than usual during this transit, during this whole year, then now's the time to learn how to put up those boundaries for you. All right? Good. Let me see what slide I'm on. I think that's it for now. On this slide, I got more. Don't go anywhere. All right, next, Jupiter in Pisces. Now, the last time, I mentioned this earlier, the last time Jupiter was in Pisces with Neptune was 1855 and 1856. So we're going to take a little trip back in time. So just a few years after Neptune was discovered, Jupiter entered that sign. So here we are. This is when Jupiter was in Pisces with Neptune in Pisces, like it is now, was these dates. So May 11 to August. I don't know the date there. I didn't put it in there. 1855. December 28, 1855 to May 7, 1856, and November 3rd, 1856, December 14, 1856. You can read all that. Now, also Uranus, this is for the astrologers. Uranus was also in the sign of Taurus during that time from May to August. That's where Uranus was, 16 to 20 degrees of Taurus. He is in the sign of Taurus now as well. So we have these three planets in the same sign. Boy, Uranus and Taurus has really helped to keep things grounded. That's just a little more astrology than I wanted to go into, even though I put it in here. So we're just going to move on to the next slide. Here is what it looks like when we do astrocartography. And this is an approximate. This is what Jupiter conjunct Neptune looks like when we do the astrocartography. So where is it in the sky? And so you can see what the arrows are. Where Jupiter and Neptune are at the time of their conjunction, they will be at the apex of the chart called the midheaven, somewhere on the planet. And that is this line right here. You can see it up and down. I can't do it with my mouse. It's up and down. This is where they are on the other end of it, which is considered the Em Coli, which is the opposite side of the chart, the base. This is where they move through the sky. And so where they cross is very important, and where this path will be the highlight. We do this with eclipses. And that way, because when you can see the path of an eclipse, there's usually more energy, the ley lines get active, or that part of the world has the activity, more of the activity that we're talking about. And look at where this crosses right here in Brazil. So this is why I know that Brazil, even though I didn't see this before I discovered the story of it, but I just happened to pop it up and I'm like, I'm absolutely not surprised. This map doesn't show it. I couldn't recreate it a second time, but there is another line that goes right through Africa. So it could be that Brazil, Africa has one too. I'm sorry, I didn't put the extra line in here. Shame on me. But desert, it could be drought or it could be not a drought. We'll have to see. Their water issues they may be able to start resolving them. We'll have to wait and see. And then over here, this line, the Imcoli line, right there through Japan, that Jupiter line that goes right through Brazil also goes right next to Japan. So it's just a quick peek at that in the astrocartography. Just so I just know those two areas are definitely going to should be a major focus. It doesn't mean others won't be, but will definitely be a major focus in the world. All right. So what was going on? Jupiter in Pisces with Neptune, 1855, 1856, and now 2021, 2022. So in that time period, there were many things going on, many things. Wars were started. We were getting ready for our American Revolution. I mean, all kinds of things. But I kind of wanted to focus really in on the Neptune qualities, and that's our spirituality, that's beliefs, that's non-belief, that's illusion. So then the spiritualist movement was just getting started. It was a big movement then. Women were finally able to speak up and talk about how they felt about things and just really have a voice and a voice, and were heard. Now we have QAnon, and QAnon is also a belief-based movement. We're not sure where it's going yet. We know what it's about in some ways, but do we? It's only been around since 2018. So we'll see what's going on. But back in 1855 and 1856, during the Victorian age, besides the spiritualist movement getting started, it was a period, I'm going to read this, it was also a period of deep and sustained religious revival. And that's where the spiritualists came from. There was an evangelical revival in the Christian church, but also a host of descending unorthodox cults, right? So there was a lot of religious division going on. It was the golden age, right? It was a golden age of belief in supernatural forces and energies, ghost stories, weird transmission, spooky phenomena, right? That's some of the things that were going on in that time period. And now, I'm sure we have it in some places, but this is the one I could pick the most out of, is like QAnon and all of the things and just what they share. It's a belief. People truly believe in what is being said through this group. So here's more then and now. So now we have some major scientific and medical breakthroughs. They take faith and trust for the non-scientific person to get behind. I can sit there and read all the science papers about this vaccine, this COVID, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, that sounds all right. I guess I can get behind that. And then I'll read something else that says the exact opposite. And I'm like, well, that sounds like that too. So we have to have faith and trust in what we're going to believe in. And I'm not asking for division. I'm just saying we have to have that faith and trust because we don't know. Back in the 1850s, there were a lot of medical breakthroughs, and which to them felt like magic and mystery. And it was accompanied by shadowy stuff in the occult, right? Because people didn't know. The scientists knew, but most people were very uneducated back then, not like today. And even today, like I said, it's hard for us. We think we know what we're reading is the truth, It feels right, but that doesn't mean it is. Who knows? So there was just a lot going on in the world. People were very enchanted and by the sciences, and the science grew really fast back then. There was a lot of advancement at that point in time. And so, and then it was blamed on the supernatural or things that were unnatural. So there's a lot of mix in here. So science was growing, medical discoveries were through the roof, going so quickly, but then faith and belief, a lot of division in the church. And, even like now, you think about it, with what is it called? With the vaccine. Yeah. That came pretty fast for us. I know they've been working on things like this and that variety for a very long time, but it seems too quick. It seems too quick for some people. And I alluded it to way in the beginning, but one of the stories I've been hearing lately about conspiracies and theories is like that there's artificial intelligent nanobots in the vaccine that are coming out of people who have been vaccinated and entering people who aren't. Now, whether that's true or not, who am I to say? Because I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I am bringing it up because this is what Jupiter in Pisces with Neptune can do. It can bring something to our attention, and we have absolutely no way to prove if it's right or not. So, what's the bottom line, personally and collectively? Jupiter archetype represents the desire for meaning and growth and includes our experience of optimism, faith, and confidence. It's associated with beliefs, philosophy, education, ideas, and visions of the future, as well as the legal system, social rules that hold society together. Jupiter's energy is expansive, inspiring, and future-oriented, bringing luck, knowledge, abundance, and grace, but also greed, arrogance, inflation, and waste. The great benefic, he's known as, encourages us to connect with something greater than ourselves and expand our horizons, inner and outer. We may feel a little uncertain about life, but we need to have faith. Optimism runs high, so we may not have enough discernment. So check in with yourself. Have somebody check in with you too. Do I have any more slides? I don't. Oh, I do. I think I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, one more. And bring more water into your life somehow. The north face of a room, the north side of a room, which is mine right here, is water. Put something that represents water there, whether it's a fountain, a goldfish. I have a picture of a moving stream. Movement of water that will help your room, your home, your life feel a little clearer, right? We really want to. I really encourage us to connect with the spirit of water. Helps to purify us and cleanse us, and invite us into that richness of life. And that, I think I will leave you with that. So thank you so much. And this has been a pleasure. And I'm going to stop my share so I can come back to full screen. Hello. Thank you, everybody, so much. And you can find me on the web, nhastrologer.com. Take good care. Namaste.